Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Truth Unveiled with me, Riaz Ahmed. I hope that you enjoyed our previous program and you have actually gained a lot of information and awareness from our previous program. As you are aware that Truth Unveiled is mostly a program where we discuss most of the issues around the world which are not discussed on other TV channels. The most controversial issues, for instance, Muslim identity. And today we are going to discuss a very special situation of a province which is situated between Iraq and Iran and the Arab Gulf. It is known as the name Ahwaz. Ahwaz is an occupied territory which is between Iran, Iraq and the Arab Gulf. To discuss on the Ahwaz issue today in this very special program, I have a guest who belongs to Ahwaz, and that is Amjad Taha. Welcome to the program, Amjad.
Thanks for having me.
Just a brief introduction about yourself. You are a spokesperson for the European Ahwazi Ahwaz Human Rights Organization. Now, the European Ahwaz Human Rights Organization, is it situated in the UK? Do you have an office in the UK, or do you work worldwide?
Well, it works worldwide, but mainly it has an office in the United Kingdom, in London, and it works with its colleagues with other organisations in Europe.
And how many members do you have?
Well, there is a higher number of people there working, and some of, mainly, are volunteers.
And what's the Ahwazi community in the UK?
Ahwazi community in the UK are around 2,000 to 3,000 families who are living in the UK. And they started immigrating to Britain about the 1999. That was the start of their immigration, because before that they were prevented. There was no way for them to immigrate outside.
We will go to that later on, how and why they were prevented, how they're not getting their basic human rights as well, and who is actually controlling the territory. What are your other activities? What is your profession apart from being the member of this organization?
Well, apart from being a member of that, I'm also the spokesperson for the British Arab Media Watch, and working with the students' offices, and a member of the the Arab students in Middlesex University. And was a radio presenter for Unity FM, that's Birmingham. And also I am the head and the manager of the ARN page, that's the Ahwazi Revolution News, and it has more than 9,000 members on that page. It has a Facebook page too.
Brilliant. Now, Amjad, Ahwaz, this province is, I had never heard of Ahwaz before. I had never heard of the situation of Ahwaz before, and I'm sure that there are many millions out there in the world who are not aware of this situation. It is a very controversial kind of issue that we are going to discuss today, and we want to make people aware of the situation of Ahwaz. Now, Ahwaz, there are the majority of the population, as far as I have heard, is the Arab Sunnis who are Ahwazis. And how long has the Ahwazis or the Arabs been in Ahwaz, and what was the situation before the Ahwazis went there, who was controlling, before the Arabs went there, and who was controlling? And tell us the brief and a very basic history of Ahwaz.
Well, Ahwaz has been for 1,000 years. It was an independent land. I mean, Ahwaz is strategically situated in the east coast of the Arabian Gulf, and the home for more than 10 million Arabs. It was an independent Arab land until then, the 20th April 1925, when it was occupied by Iran. And since 1925, Ahwaz has been under the tight control, the Iranian control. Ahwaz has an area of 375,000 square kilometers. The geographical status of Ahwaz, I mean the Ahwaz limits bounded of the west is Iraq, and the southwest of the Arabian Gulf and the Arabian Peninsula, and we also have from the north and the east the mountain Zakras, which it's almost the divide that divides the divide between the Ahwaz and Iran. Mainly, this is the very brief history of Al-Ahwaz since the occupation up to this current date. Ahwaz, I mean, 80% to the 90% of Iranian gross domestic product comes from Al-Ahwaz, which has reserved over 140 billion barrels of oil and more than 100 and...
So the Ahwaz is actually full of natural resources, and all the natural resources are actually controlled by the Iranian government.
It's only controlled by the Iranian government, and specifically the Iranian Revolutionary Guards.
What other natural resources are there?
Well, the natural resources, as I said, I mean, 85% to the 90% of Iranian gross domestic product is comes all from Ahwaz. Iran is making about over 140 billion barrels of oil and more than 210 billion of cubic meters of natural gas. So that's a lot. I mean, that's the second largest oil and gas reserve in the world. It's Iran, and all it comes from Al-Ahwaz. And Iran refuses to spend 1% of it in Al-Ahwaz. Al-Ahwaz has 15% to 20% of the whole world reserves oil. Talking about the Ahwaz wealth, we have the oil, we have the natural gas, we have the water, and we have the agricultural resources and the natural resources. I mean, speaking about their wealth, although Ahwaz is the most resources rich land in the modern terms, country maybe, yet the land is, the Ahwazi population are still suffering from the highest, according to Iranian official data, the highest, they describe it as the highest level of unemployment. There is no employment there, a health problem, and other poverty.
Regarding all this, the natural resources, as you mentioned, there's gas, natural gas, there is a lot of oil and other products in Ahwaz. After having all these resources, the Ahwazi people still facing a lot of poverty. Is that right?
There is a lot of poverty. We have the number of poverties is increasing. More than 45% of the people are living under the poverty. So this is a lot. I mean, for the country that provides the world with 15% of its oil, it's a lot. I mean, for the 86 years under the framework of organized government plans, Iran has been oppressing the Ahwazi nation, violating all their basic human rights, detaining the women and the children, and stealing or expropriating the farmlands for the newly settlements. I'm talking about settlements here. It's just like how Israel does it. There's new settlements.
So there isn't a much different situation from what the Palestinians are facing today. So the new settlements that are being built in Ahwaz, who are they for, and who are the new settlers in Ahwaz?
There is new settlements. We have the Ramin Shah. We have a lot of settlements Ramin Shah, that's the new ones. We have Fahran Shah and many more. I shall come to it later on. However, I mean, you're talking about comparing Iran and Israel. Israel actually allows the Palestinian people to speak their language, to be taught their language. However, the teaching Arabic in the Islamic State of Iran is banned in Ahwaz.
It is actually banned.
It's banned. It's not just that.
The 10 million Arabs, sorry to cut you
10
off.
million, exactly.
The 10
Sunni,
million
majority
Arabs,
Sunni, yeah.
Iran is trying to actually enforce the Persian language, which is Farsi, and the Persian culture over those 10 million Arabs. They are not allowed to actually speak or teach the Arab language and to have the same old Arab culture which they've had for the last 1,000 years.
Exactly.
What is the situation regarding this?
This is the situation there. I mean, teaching Arabic, the language of the Quran, I mean, you call yourself an Islamic state, you should at least allow the teaching of it. Even we're talking about individual cases, or even a private school paid by their own public is prevented. I mean, the study of Farsi is compulsory in every school, which is part of the broader Iranization, what the Ahwazi people call Persianization policy. And this is a process of causing at least approximately of 45% dropout at the rate of from the primary school. We have 62 dropout of the secondary school and 80% of the high school, which means disaster. Most of the people are not attending school because they're not understanding the language, and there is not a way. I mean, recently we had a case talking about, I mean, the Nazi style persecution does not end at the school gate there in Iran, in Ahwaz. There are additional humiliation, converting Ahwazi children in Iranian classroom with oppressive teaching and humiliating terms of racial biology that humiliate them and labels them with racially inferior, which means they've seen them as racially lower than them. And the discrimination against the school students in Ahwaz is still common as ever. For years, and for decades actually, children have been victim of ethnic cleansing. We're talking about ethnic cleansing, and this was confirmed by the Amnesty International, that Ahwaz is going through an ethnic cleansing. And many people are suffering from that status there. The European recent video posted on the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization and the other even Iranian organization confirmed the video. The video shows that instead of the children, instead of being taught the Persian language, the Ahwazi children who fail to understand it are beaten by their aggressive teacher, and he shows
They're actually forced to learn the language.
They've been I mean, the teacher is holding both of the children's heads and knocking them out. And not just this, he also he goes further by forcing the children to beat themselves.
To beat themselves.
And it's deeply worrying. This kind of behavior is unbelievable, and as I told you, it's causing 80% of the people dropping out from the school. It's affecting the attendance there.
Now, the World Human Rights Associations or organizations, what have they done about this? Because, as I said, that the vast majority of the world population are not aware of Ahwaz or the situation of Ahwaz. What has the human rights organizations, other than your own, you're a member of, have they done?
Well, apart from, I mean, the Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, and many other organizations, apart from condemnation, there is nothing at all. Apart from
that's all they do is condemn the situation.
That's about it.
The aggression of the Iranian government against the Ahwazi. It is only condemned by, I mean, verbally it has been condemned, but there's no action being taken.
There is no action. We asked the organization to actually ask the Iranian government to allow them to at least enter, or allow the press to enter the Ahwazi state.
So no press, no media is allowed to enter Ahwaz.
There is no press, no media. I mean, we had in 2006 or 2005 actually, when Al Jazeera made one show about Ahwaz, which was about 5 minutes, that's about it. And Al Jazeera was banned from Iran, the whole Iran, for 2 years. This shows how much Iran is hiding. Is a dirty secret there, which has been hidden by Iran.
What about
when it comes to Iran, the West is obsessed with Tehran nuclear program, but shows very little when it comes to about the human rights.
Neglecting the situation of the Ahwaz people.
It neglects it. I mean, we have the Sunnis inside Iran. The Sunnis are being abused. Their human rights. There is no human rights. I mean, look, I'm not comparing here, but I'm just putting a fact. I'm putting the fact forward. Israel, the occupied land of Palestine, we have 10 mosques in Tel Aviv. There is no Sunni mosque in the 10 million. People live 10 million there, and I gave you this where it's situated and how big is the country. Okay, we have Baluchistan, which is on the borders again with Pakistan and Afghanistan. And again, the majority there is Sunni. However, they're not allowed to attend, they make their own mosque. And if there is a mosque for the Sunni, it's very old and you're not allowed to repair it. So this kind of abuse against the human rights, media has been quiet about.
So what you're saying is that regardless of having the 10 million Sunni Muslims in the territories, they're not allowed to practice their religion.
That's correct.
So there is a restriction on practicing their religion, practicing their Muslim or Arab culture, and having an Arab education.
Indeed.
And plus a lot of other violation of human rights. Now, the United Nations, has this been highlighted to the United Nations? Obviously it has been, but what have the United Nations done about this so far?
Many Ahwazi organizations, human rights organizations, and even resistant organizations who are resisting the Iranian occupation have written and have tried to meet members of the United Nations. However, as I told you, it's just about a meeting over a table and having a cup of tea, and that's about it. It's been ignored. There is more cases there, and we simply, the last time we met a member of the United Nations, his simple answer was to us, we're dealing with the nuclear program.
They're dealing with the nuclear program at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not, they're busy, I mean, and in other words, we don't care that much. We have something serious.
Now, there's land confiscation as well. The Arab land has been confiscated by the Iranian government as well. And there has been many uprisings, as far as I understand from yourself, 16 uprisings. And there are many prisoners, Ahwazi prisoners in Iran. Are they taken to Iran? Just tell us a bit about this, the confiscation of the land and the uprisings and the prisoners.
Okay, before going to the confiscation, I'm gonna show you how much he went, how far he went. Since the dark night of the 21st or the 20th actually of April 1925, it has changed. Iran changed, or actually pivoted the name of towns. It changed the names. It changed cities and local names into Persian. Right. And simple example of that. And they always do it to wipe out the Arab heritage there, or the Islamic Sunni names. You know, there is specific Sunni names for particular areas. It's called Omar area, so that has to wipe out, and it changed it to a different name. They almost changed the names, the alphabetic there, and again, is Iranianized or Persianizing the region. However, in 1936, Reza Pahlavi, one of the Iranian dictators, changed the name of Arabistan. So they used to call it Arabistan, which it was a confirmation from Iranian government again of the occupation.
For almost 1,000 years, it's been called Arabistan.
Yeah,
the land of the Arabs.
Even the Ottomanian, they used to call it the land of Arab to tell the world that it's actually not part of the Persia, not part of Iran at all. 1936 only, since that date, they changed it from Arabistan, And for historical, and the history recalls that Arabistan is changed, the Arab state to Khuzestan. And more recently, they uses the perverted spelling of Ahwaz instead of Ahwaz with a W. So they changed even that from a W to V. And the reason why, to make sure it's Persian and it's not spelled with a W, which the Ahwazi people pronounce it Ahwaz. And again, what shows that actually there is no meaning when it comes to the Ahwaz with a V in Persian. There is no meaning.
There is no meaning. It's just that they need to change
exactly.
that so it doesn't sound Arab.
Exactly. But when it comes
as long as it doesn't sound Arab, even though it doesn't have a meaning, the Arab name should not exist.
Exactly.
So this is their main target.
And I mean, look, when a human is born, the right for every family to choose a name for their children. In Ahwaz, that doesn't exist. There is a list. You go through the list and you choose the name. If the name is not on the list, it cannot be on your passport or your identity or anything.
Now, we've heard many cases. I've done a bit of research on this myself since I've heard about the Ahwaz, and I was quite shocked. The situation, knowing the situation, is very shocking for any person, not just for the Arabs or for the Muslims, but any human being. What I come to understand is that, as you mentioned, there are mosques, but they're old mosques, but the Ahwazi Sunni Muslims, they're not allowed to maintain these mosques or to carry out any kind of repairs. And if anyone tries to go and perform his prayer in these mosques, they're not allowed to go and perform their prayer in the mosques. There are other cases where people have been actually killed or hanged for going and praying in these mosques.
Yes, of course.
Without the permission of the Iranian government.
Well, we had a sheikh called Sheikh Abdul Hamid al-Dawsari, and he went to Sharqa and he studied there in an Islamic school, and he came back. Now, how he made it to Sharqa, that's another story. But as he came back, he couldn't take the fact that these people are preventing people from praying for for 100 years now. And all he did, he went and opened the mosque, and he himself alone prayed there.
There was a mosque.
There was a mosque.
Nobody was allowed to use that mosque.
It was a mosque which is just made of mud, and it's very old, very old. There is no way you can repair it. It's a crime where you go for 6 months in a prison for repairing that. Trying to repair,
or even to plan to repair, you can go into prison.
You get lashes for it. So Abdul Hamid, he went there, and they found out about it. They actually hanged him on the menara of the masjid, and they brought the masjid down. They demolished the mosque. That was the only mosque. It was in Abadan, which is I believe about 30 kilometers away from the
Ahwaz capital city. So just trying to establish that mosque.
Yeah, he just entered it himself, just attending it. So it's not even reestablishing. Forget about that. I mean, just attending to pray your own individual prayer. For that, he was killed and hanged by the Menara, and it was a very clear message that this is a crime. To send it to all the Arabs.
What was the reaction of the Muslims, the Sunnis in that area when they found the sheikh or the teacher found hanged on a minaret of a mosque which belongs to them as well? It's been there for 1,000 years. Then what was the reaction of the public?
Well, anger as usual, the reaction of the public there. But however, there was a demonstration. People went outside trying to demonstrate. And the problem is, when I am demonstrating there in Ahwaz, no one can hear about me. There could be a mosque there and no one can hear about me. No one can hear that voice there. So Iran, simple, I mean, Iran made the nuclear program now. The whole is situated in South Ahwaz, in Bandar Abbas and Bushehr. It tells you everything. And there is places, it's not even been actually released on the United Nations or the Amnesty. They haven't even spoke about it. And it's in Dar Khwayn. Dar Khwayn is in Ahwaz, and there is a nuclear program there. It's running.
God forbid if tomorrow there is a war between Iran and America, which is being planned so far. We hear on the news every now and then that America is planning to destroy the Iranian nuclear industry. As you just mentioned, I wasn't aware of this. A lot of this is actually built in Ahwaz. So if the nuclear plants are being bombed, the most people who are going to suffer, they will be the Ahwazis, who are already suffering.
Yeah, and you will go to the Arab Gulf as well. So there was a reason for situating and putting that nuclear program there. If anything happened, nothing is going to reach their lands. They have mountains of Zagros, which is very high and thingy. They're protected.
In other words, Ahwazis are actually sitting on a time bomb, which can explode any time.
Exactly. I mean, you either protest, and whatever you do, there is no voice for you, and there is no one there to hear you. And if a war happens, you're the first victim.
Now, the confiscation of the Arab land we were talking about.
Yeah, the Arab land confiscation, I mean, it reminds us of Israel again. It's common policy by Iran's regime, regardless of the regime. I mean, we had the Shah, the previous dictator in Iran, and the current Ayatollahs. They all run in the same system. They forced many Arab farmers to leave their lands, just like Israel does, and those lands then used for the new towns and the industrial area, employing non-Arabs or Sunni working there in that places. In recent case, in Saturday, the Sunday, the 27th of November 2011, we had 70 Ahwazi were arrested from
just a few days ago.
Exactly. They were arrested in Zergan district in Ahwaz city, in Ahwaz city for resisting the land confiscation. And what happened? I mean, let's hear what they say actually. According to the so-called Khuzestan prosecutor office, this is what he said. They were arrested for acting against national security, anti-regime propaganda, and anti-regime gathering. The office didn't show us nothing. It did not disclose their name. And by the way, they do that. So later on, and they do that before executing them. They don't give you a name. So the Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, they don't condemn it and they don't know the names. There is no proof of it. Talking about the thing, the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization understand that these activists, the Ahwazi activists, they have been arrested for resisting the forced confiscation of their land by the Iranian authorities and resisting the injustice that is being the Arabs, or the injustice of the Arabs of the region who are being subjected to. Last week, I mean, several people, I mean, we have pictures, cannot be even put on TVs or something. We have pictures of several people who were injured and taken to hospital when people just objecting their confiscation in Zergan district. The Ahwazi Arabs, the majority who are majority Sunni, are still facing the land confiscation every single year. And I was telling you, in recent years, Iran has stepped a settlement for the Persians by building a new town such as Ramin Shahr. We have Shirin Shahr, providing them with better facilities. We have such as electricity, gas, and healthy water. I mean, you might find this normal, but it's a miracle in Ahwaz if you have a healthy water. Even though, I mean, we have the Karun, which we have 42. We have actually 13 rivers, and then we have 42 branches for the rivers that surrounded.
The water situation is there. It's not very good. The water is all polluted. I watched a very short video, which was actually based on the water in the rivers. The rivers are polluted, and the Iranian government, the occupying government, is not doing anything about that. So what have the people done, and what have the world
talking about the world, you'd be surprised. I mean, despite the huge water resources there that the region suffering.
How many rivers did you say?
We have about 13.
13 rivers.
And then, as I told you, I don't know the exact terminology for it. Then you have the branches of the rivers that is surrounding Al-Ahwaz. As I told you, what makes this more aggravated, how Iran, the government, diverged the water and they send it to the other Persian cities up in Isfahan and Shiraz. and he divert all the water to those lands.
And
However,
who,
these people,
who is using those lands? Are they the Shias or are
they mainly, well, we have the Shias and we have also the Zoroastrian, who are the Majus, as the Arab calls them. Regarding the water again, the water is, there is a crisis due to the deliberate, I mean, there is a deliberate discharge of untreated waste coming from the urban.
discharged into the rivers?
Yeah, exactly. Discharged into the rivers.
Intentionally polluting the
It is
rivers.
intentional. I mean, we read the World Health Organization data. Regarding the pollution, we expect, I mean, when you hear the World Health Organization data, when you talk about pollution, this is what you expect to hear countries like China, Russia, or maybe India. But surprisingly and unfortunately for millions, quoted, let me just read that for you. Ahwaz is in southern Iran, has the world's worst air pollution. According to the data released by the World Health Organization, the oil companies and steel factories around Ahwaz city contribute to airborne particular levels, averaging 15 times that of Los Angeles and 3 times of Beijing. Air pollution, which means we have a lot of
And that is due to the nuclear plants and the industry, which is only from these industries, only the Iranians or the Persians benefiting, but not the Ahwazis.
I mean, as I told you, we spoke about the basic human rights to breathe normal air. You don't have this in Ahwaz. You have pollution. You meant to have this pollution. I mean, when China comes after Ahwaz, that's a crisis. We're talking about the China and how huge and big is China. And then you're talking about, and this is again from an independent organization, a health organization, has nothing to do with Ahwaz, and I believe they don't know that Ahwaz actually is occupied. They just did a proof. And the illnesses, we have the cancer, we have the kidneys illnesses and infections and failure. All these illnesses come from the air pollution that we have and the water pollution that we have in Ahwaz. And again, as I told you, you can't breathe in Ahwaz because of the pollution. You can't drink normal water, okay? And you can't name your child any names. I mean, this is
names.
In Sunni names, of course, or any Arab names. Heritage goes through the Arab names, and mainly the Arab names are Sunni names. So
if one names his child Umar or Abu Bakr or Osman or a female Aisha, what would they have to face?
Well, they serve about 9 months. The 9 month, if he has not, if he actually put in there somehow, because some people try to pay money and to put the name there in the identity and that to confirm it somehow.
You mean bribe?
Yeah, of course.
Right, the registrars.
But if they do that, okay, and the government find out that the name, for example, when the child started in the school and is called Omar, the dads of the family of the father will go for 9 months imprisonment, and then based on that the judges either goes furthermore or lashes, and that's about it. 45 lashes they get for that. If the name is just publicly people's calling him Omar, is not there in the identity.
It's a nickname.
It's just a nickname there. Then it's only 4 months, and that's about it, imprisonment. And people find that that's normal. From everyone, I believe most of the Ahwazi people have spent that 4 months in the prison.
This is a great violation of human rights. And now we've actually talked about the human rights organizations. What have they done so far? What I understand from you is almost everyone has neglected the Ahwazis' situation and the persecution they're facing. There are 26,000 prisoners who are Ahwazis, who are Arabs and Sunnis. What is going to happen to these prisoners? What are their futures? Will they be ever released, or have any of them been released so far?
Well, we have those who've been in prison for 50 years, 20 years, now been released. So, and they're very few. And you can't, there is, We don't know if they're being released. I mean, what happens? They deport them to a different city, far from where your family cannot attend or see.
They cannot reach you. You cannot tell what happened while you're in the prison. You cannot tell the world what happened to you.
And at the same time, they change your name, they change the place, and you're gone.
It's total identity is changed.
Exactly.
Nobody knows who you are.
Exactly. You disappeared. I mean, since the 1925 up to this day, Iran holds more than 26,000, as you said, Ahwazi prisoners. More than 6,521 of those detainees are females. We have then more than about 1,321 of those captives are youngsters between the age of 13 to 16. And Amnesty International condemned that million times, and they wrote to Iran, and Iran refused, and Iran told them it's only based on crimes. I mean, what can you hold a child crimes for, 13 to 16 years old? For how long can you keep him in prison? When you keep him from 10 million, you keep increasing the number to 1,322, and you keep executing people. That's a crime. That's a crisis. From those, we have 3,895 of those are now at the age of 56 to 78. Very old. What is he doing in prison? I mean, put him in hospital. That's the least you can do. And obviously the medication is denied for the prisoners.
I was coming to now. The medical system for the Ahwazis. Is there any medical system for them? As we talked about the education before, they're not allowed to teach Arabic. The Arabic culture is dying. This is what the Iranians, the Persians or the Shias want. They want to see the Arab culture die from Ahwaz and the Arab language die from Ahwaz. Now, what about the basic medicines, the support or the medical support? Is there anything in Ahwaz which has been provided by the government? The Iranian government? There
is nothing is provided by the government. You actually you have to purchase the medicine. There is no so-called free, just we have here in Britain and the NHS.
What about the hospitals?
The hospitals, it depends. I mean, there is, what you can feel the racial inferior there in the hospital. You've been treated different. You can realize that. You've been treated differently.
You'll be treated as a low class person if you're an Arab.
Exactly.
Because they're controlled, the hospitals are actually controlled by the Shias or the Persians or the Iranians.
The thing that we found out actually in Holland, the doctors in Holland found out after Ahwazi female attended the doctor and told them that she cannot no longer be pregnant. I mean, she was pregnant, she has 2 children, but when she came to Holland, okay, she can't be pregnant no more, and however, they found out that when she was pregnant with a second child and after she gave birth, inside the hospital in Ahwaz, in Iran there, they do what's called the second operation while you there you just gave birth. They do second operation and they stop you from pregnancy. And this is, I mean, they're just trying to stop it. And there is a message there is big, and everywhere you see it in Ahwaz, 1 child only. It says 1 child only. And they always advertise that is 1 child only.
Are there many cases like that woman who came to Holland, the one you just mentioned?
Exactly.
Are there many cases like that?
We have in Holland, and we have 2 females in Germany, and the case is just being found out. I mean, some people thought it's their illness, yes, their own individual illness. And you know, when it comes to this kind of cases, we as in Islamic culture and Arab culture, we kind of keep this inside. We think it's our own illnesses or something. But however, once they attended the doctor and they followed the cases, and they're still following the cases, they found out that actually it's another abuse of the human rights in Iran.
Now, the UN has neglected the Ahwazi situation. I don't know what the United Kingdom would do, the British government. I don't know whether this has been highlighted. Obviously, it must have been highlighted to the British government in the House of Parliament.
We have actually attended the House of Parliament a couple of times, but as I told you, just you can talk and that's about it.
Again, you can only talk verbal things, but no action has been taken against the Iranians. The human rights, only dialogues. And now, what about the Arab governments, there are Arab countries, because the Ahwazis, they originate from the Arabs. Now, what has any of the Arab governments or the Arab state has done so far, or are they even aware of the situation of the Ahwazis?
Talking about the government, absolutely nothing. When it comes to the government, we have tried to approach the government, the Arab League at least. We attended in Egypt, the Arab League. Many Ahwazi organizations have attended there and spoke to the Arab League members there. There is not much to do there in the Arab League. And Omar Musa, who was the Arab League president, he simply said, we have Palestine issue to deal with, and once we're done with that, we surely will look into your case.
Or are they doing anything for the Palestinian issue?
I don't think so.
So far, the world hasn't seen any action from
there. I don't know what you're going to do here. So the Ahwazi people then moved on to the civil or the national, the people, the Arab people, instead of the government organization. The public. They
approached the general public.
General public, yeah. They approached the general public there, and they actually they got some of good response from the Bahraini people there. The Bahraini people welcomed the Ahwazi people, and they support. That's the least they can do. They support.
What kind of support? You get just a moral support, or is there financial support?
Well, there is no financial support. There is a moral support, and there is the magazine now is being published. It's called Eyes on Humanity. It has a sections in it where it just talks about specifically on Ahwaz. Yes, it's 3 pages.
So they have given a window to the Ahwazis where you can send out your message
through a magazine,
or
through a newspaper there. Such as Al-Watan Al-Bilad and all these newspapers. Apart from as I told, the Egyptian again, Ahwazi people, the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization and the other Ahwazi Human Rights Organization and other organizations, they attended the Tahrir Square in Egypt and tried somehow to make relations with those, and they were welcomed. They really were welcomed by the public there. So as I told you, it's working through the public relations rather than the direct relations with governments, and there is development there, and hopefully we will get that result.
Going abroad for education or to work, what's the situation there? You get a permission from the authorities, the Iranian authorities. You have to get a permission from them, and is it easy to go to another country? For instance, you were here in the UK. Did you face any difficulties, or is it easier now than it used to be? So what's the situation regarding this?
Well, it's very hard for Ahwazi people to leave Ahwaz, because once you leave the state of Ahwaz, you've been integrated and you've been followed by spies, and why you outside, why you here, and what's the reason? Are you trying to, spread what they call, they name randomly Wahhabis or the your Arab nationalist or your Muslim Sunni, all these kind of names, the people who fight God. I don't know what they mean by that, but that's their tag name for
who fight God.
Yeah, that's their tag name.
The God of the Shias.
Yeah, the God of Shia, I don't know. But that's the kind of the unemployment is high and is above the Iranian national average, the national average in Ahwaz. Due to the employment criteria, we have what's called Gazinesh, and in Gazinesh, which effectively control the Arab access to employment on the grounds of their race and political opinion. You have your political opinion, they ask you your direct political opinion, and there is integration after that. So you apply for a job, and there is integration after that, and there is people that will ask everyone about you, they will investigate all your case, okay, to see your political opinion, and then they see what's your religion like, and what's your faith like, and how do you practice, and who do you speak to? Do you speak Arabic in public? That's for them, it's a crime. Do you speak Arabic in public? So these kind of things. So almost people, according to Iran, the employment is increasing by 45% now in Ahwaz.
Now, if the world community doesn't take any action against the Iranian government regarding the Ahwazi situation to save the Ahwazi people, what do you think will happen in the next 2 or 3 decades?
We facing a massacre. We actually facing, I don't know, I shall call it another Holocaust. That is happening already. In April 2005, alone Ahwazi had their human rights extensively violated. We had more than 211 activists were executed.
211 in how long?
Just in April 2005.
Right.
They were randomly just taken from the road and executed. And that was because in April 2005 we had...
Were they armed? The
had,
activists?
yeah.
Are they ever armed?
They had nothing in them, apart from their voice maybe, and some actually is proven, we confirmed that at least 30 of those who were executed had nothing to do with the protest. They actually were even Shia. They were not even Sunni, they were actually Shia. So the reason here again, it comes to the race, that you are Arab and you're not...
You are an Arab, and even though if you're a Shia, you still have lesser rights than a Persian Shia.
A Persian Shia. So, and we had executed, as I told you, they executed 211, and 1,000 were arrested, large discriminations and detention campaigns. Ahwaz, if we go back to history, Ahwaz again has had 16 uprisings and revolutions in Ahwaz, if I'm using the right.
So what was the outcome of the uprising, apart from 26,000 prisoners? Was there any positive outcome? Again, no, I don't...
I mean, there is, apart from leaving this in the generation, the upcoming generation, leaving this case and giving this case to the next generation and tell them that you have a case there. Apart from that, no, there haven't been nothing. There actually more execution, more imprisonment, and more abuse and discrimination. Iran cannot take Ahwazi people raising their voice. And again, as I told you, because of the Arab neighbors, the Arabian Gulf there, the Arabian Peninsula, they don't want to hear this voice to be heard. As soon as it's heard, there is a big case there regarding the abuse of the international law and the talking about the uprising, 16 uprising, including the last one, which was at the 15 April 2011, where we had 68 were killed and hundreds were injured, while 1,000 were arrested, obviously. And the Amnesty International confirmed and condemned it again. Also the Human Rights, but this time, for first time, the Human Rights Watch asked for international investigation. That was the first time they asked for it. And many other humanitarian organizations who asked Iran to permit or allow and guarantee the human rights organization and the media to enter Ahwaz.
Since the occupation of Ahwaz by the Iranian Shia government, how many killings have taken place in the entire periods of the occupation?
We don't have exact number for it, but as I told you, the prisoners are 26,000, and the execution, there is not a collective data there for it. But I mean, just this year, since the April, we haven't finished this year actually, and we up to May, we had 400 people were executed. So this is a big number. I mean, you have 5 months of the year is not done yet, it's not finished yet, and you have a large number of 400 people being executed. The killing number, I mean, if we want to count it, we'll end up with murder cases and very abusive.
Just to remind the viewers, we're talking on the situation of Ahwaz province, which is located between Iran and Iraq and the Arab Gulf. The situation of the Ahwazis, the people of Ahwaz, who are a majority, almost 10 million Arabs, and they are Sunnis. Their rights have been violated, although they've been there almost over 1,000 years. But today they're facing a very difficult situation, a very sad situation. And after hearing some of the things from Amjad. I think Amjad, the situation of the Ahwazis, it is much more difficult and sadder, I should rather say, than the people of Kashmir. I mean, I'm not saying that the Kashmiris are not facing a hardship, same as the Palestinians, but this is really a shocking what we hear about Ahwaz today, and I'm sure many people out there are not aware. What would be your message now directly to people who are watching this program?
The simple message to these people who are watching this program: Ahwazi people, the least they're asking for is a basic human right. We spoke about the human rights. The least basic human rights, that's all the Ahwazi demands. You heard about it. We're asking for justice. It's time for you there behind that screen, to stand with us. Stand for justice. That's all we want. How
can our viewers get in touch with you? Do you have any website? You mentioned a website before, which is the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization. Do you have a website? Can people reach you there? Can they get in touch with you? What would, say, one of the viewers, they want to get in touch with, they want to know more about the situation? How can they get in touch with you? We have the European Human Rights,
the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization website, and as soon as you Google it, you shall be able to find it there. It's the first website that appears. And we also have the British Arab Media Watch. Again, we made a lot of Facebook pages. I mean, so if you cannot find us there, you can find us on Facebook. As soon as you put the name British Arab Media Watch, the Ahwazi Revolution News, and we also have the European Ahwazi Human Rights Organization.
You just mentioned the British Arab Media Watch. What about the British Arabs who are not from Ahwaz, but they're Arabs? What is their, I mean, is there any support from them for you?
There are some supports. I mean, we managed to make a protest against the Iranian embassy via the Iranian embassy, and that was during the May times and April times. And we made a lot of protests against. I mean, the Syrian always stand with us, and Bahraini people always standing with us, protesting against Iranian violation and discrimination against the Ahwazi Arabs. And they always condemn Iran, because again, Iran is also interfering in Bahrain and also in Syria, and helping the Syrian government to kill those Syrian revolutions.
Amjad Taha, thank you very much for coming to this program. You have sent out a lot of information to the general public out there, and I hope that all of you who watch this program, you will have some sympathy towards the people of Ahwaz, and you will support the people of Ahwaz and pass out the message to the rest of the human community. Now, this is all we have the time for, and this was just the basic introduction about Ahwaz today. In the future programs, inshallah, we will bring more guests who want to talk on the situation of Ahwaz, and we will keep you updated with the situation of Ahwaz, and we'll bring people from other walks of life who want to take part in this program regarding the situation of Ahwaz. Until next time, you take good care of yourself and look after people around you and spread peace. Assalamu alaikum. Goodbye.